Good afternoon and welcome to the Living Well program. You can find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on KATB 89.3 in Anchorage as well as KJLP 88.9 in Palmer. You can also listen live online at katb.org. So in a few other areas, you can find us on our Facebook page at Living Well Radio, or look us up on iTunes and download our podcast there and just listen at your convenience. My name is Cammie and I'm here with Betty once again.
Once again, here we are.
We get to rock and roll in this studio every once in a while. We love it.
Did you know that last night I got a text from someone that was calling me Bossy Betty?
Really? Who
That's
could
the
that
way
have
they
been?
addressed it. I'm not going to mention any names. But I told her...
I'm going to hijack your phone. I got to know who's doing it.
I said, I'm not really bossy. I'm just able to delegate things.
It's bossy. No. Betty, I'm just saying, that's just what we call bossy.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
I'm going to look in the dictionary.
Anyhow, we appreciate you guys joining us once again today, and we're super excited to have Amanda Koch joining us for part 2. We ran out of time hearing her amazing
I could not
testimony.
Believe that.
I know.
I'm so shocked 30 minutes went by so fast.
32 minutes?
32 minutes.
That's right. Little extended show, Tom.
That's right.
Sorry, Tom.
He won't mind.
But today we're just going to talk to her a little bit more. So just to remind everybody, she's a military spouse, mom of 2, blogger, business owner, and is also a master Pilates trainer. So we're going to kind of dig into a little bit more of that this time. And here's the funny thing. I was thinking this during our last show. About midway through, you referenced, going back to the arranged marriage thing. It was what you said. I just want to make sure our listeners know if they came in halfway through, that's not the topic.
Although I do believe in arranged marriages.
Yeah. We should go back to that.
I think so, too.
Tell me about it. We should.
Not one child of mine would agree with it, though.
I would love to arrange my children's marriages. Anyway,
there
she
is
was
something
just
to be said
about
for it.
Yes. Our moms really do know best, don't they?
They really do know best. I mean, there are things that I'm really grateful that they arranged our marriage because that means all the in-laws get along. When we travel, we just go back to the same place. Everybody gets along. It's good.
A lot of conveniences.
Yes, a lot of conveniences. Who would have ever thought if you would have told me that years ago?
What are your boys? Have you discussed this with your sons?
They, it's so funny because they think that everybody's grandparents are like that. So with what works out so well, and my husband and I are both from Houston originally, so that's where our parents are. And of course, he and I, or whoever knows where, we're traveling with the military wherever Uncle Sam sends us. And so we've gotten to a point now where we have kids, we anchor for Christmas, and then our parents come to us. So our kids think that everybody's grandparents, you spend all holidays together like that.
Well, I agree with your sons. So that's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be. They think that everybody's grandparents get along and hang out. I mean, my parents and my in-laws, hang out together when we're not even around. So that's a whole different, unique kind of thing. But so it's such a gift. It's an amazing gift to my kids that I didn't know was going to exist. So
have they made any other plans for you guys since the marriage?
Not that we know. I mean, as soon as my mom and my mother-in-law met because they do a lot of volunteer work together. And so as soon as we got married, they put it in the newsletter. And then as soon as we had our first child, they were like, high five, like our work is done. So they're pretty proud of themselves. They are also not quiet about it. They will tell anybody that will listen.
Well,
that's quite an accomplishment. I can't say that I blame them.
No,
that's for
sure.
No.
They're pretty proud of their work.
That's too cute. So Amanda, tell us a little bit about your blog.
Okay. So I have a blog, which is so funny. Like one of those things that I always tell myself, I could never do that. And then I end up doing it. And then I have to eat my words, a big old plate of crow. But I have a blog and a business by the name of My Well Balanced Life that I fought tooth and nail to not do for a long time. But God kept pushing it back into my brain and my thoughts and just the opportunities that kept coming along. And if you're a military spouse out there, which I know there's probably a lot of you guys out there listening, there's something really hard about maintaining a professional existence when you are moving so often. And so when I first got married, I went and got my certification to be a Pilates trainer because we moved to this small town in Florida and I couldn't find a job to save my life. And I just kind of thought, you know what, I'll go do this. I'd been doing Pilates for a long time anyway. So I'll have it in my back pocket and at least I can go pretty much anywhere I move and maybe teach a class. something, because I learned really early on as a military spouse that I really needed to have something that was just for myself. You know, so much of military life is dependent upon the military member, whether that's, you know, for me, obviously that's my husband. So his life is dictates a lot of what we do. And it's really important to have something that is your own, for your own identity, for your own just kind of outlet. And that can be so many different things, whether it's professional or hobby or whatever. But
Sure.
I really like having a community in a place where people don't know who my husband is. And I don't mean that in an ugly way. There's just something really nice to be like, oh, that's, you know, you're known for who you are and maybe what you do. So that's really important to me. And I know it makes me a healthier spouse if I do that. So that kind of is the way it started. And then as we've moved around, I tried doing the brick and mortar business, and I've done that. It's also very hard to do when you're moving around. So I have a Pilates studio that I opened in Florida. That was one of the rare places that we were there for 5 years, and I sold it when we left. And so it's still in existence, which is really fun because I get to go visit it, and have those ties down there. And who knows, we might end up going back there, right? But when I left Florida is when I really felt God was pushing me to say, like, okay, you did that. You're about to start moving even more, because usually, you know, as they kind of get higher up in rank and the longer you're in, you move more often, which seems kind of backwards, but very true.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So a lot of times, you know, like Betty and I were talking that, you know, assignments are often like 3 years or so, but then a lot of times as they get to be more like 2 years or 18 months. So I just felt like, man, you know what? It's going to be really hard to do this. And so that's kind of what led me to doing my business online. And so to go back and answer your question, it's a combination of things. I talk about food, eating real food, your healthy
When you
diet.
say real food.
So and going back to, you know, if you listen to the episode we recorded before, you know, most of what I do for my business has a lot to do with my struggles to have a second child. I went through a really dark period of time where I had multiple miscarriages, and as a result, panic attacks and issues with anxiety and depression and chronic pain and fear, which sadly are very common in this society, whether it's attached to infertility or not. But it really led me on a path to changing my lifestyle. And I think, you know, I also was able to have another child. And when you go through a health struggle, and I think you seemingly come out of it on the other side of it somewhat victoriously, or however you want to phrase that, people want to know what you did. They want to know how you did it, because they want to do it. They want to be healthy. They want to, whatever the problem is. And so I had so many people asking me how to do things, like how to change their lifestyles and stuff. And I just didn't feel like I was equipped to really counsel people appropriately. So that all led to me attaining a lot of the certifications that I have now. So I went back to school to be a nutritional therapy consultant. And so that's basically helping people to kind of restore their bodies back to optimal balance with the use of real food, the way God designed. He put all these things on earth for us to be able to use and eat, and they all serve a purpose, and learning how the body works. You know, a lot of those things that I knew little bits and nuggets about, but to really kind of go back and say, this is exactly how digestion works from head to toe, you know, so I could really help people in a more knowledgeable way. So I did that. I ended up becoming a Pilates master trainer, which is just a really fancy way of saying, I mean, how fun is it to say the word master, you know, on your business card? But it means that I can train other people to be instructors as well as train clients. So helping people learn how to move their bodies properly, proper alignment, all that good stuff, because that, you know, people need a lot of help with that.
There's a lot of crooked looking
people. There's a lot of crooked looking people and imbalances, and, you know, just feeling good in your body. And again, kind of going back to God gave us these bodies, and so how are we supposed to use them? And then the last aspect of what I do is just trying to help people eliminate the amount of toxins in their world. You know, we live in a really we live in a world where there's just a lot of junk in it, and there's a lot of great things, and then there's a lot of junk. And so just kind of finding out what's good for us, you know, what we can expose ourselves to through everything in our homes, you know, the pans you're using, the products you're using. So just to be safer. It just, when we do that, allows our bodies to function more optimally. And so those are kind of the three big areas that I try to focus on with people in the most simple way. That's always my goal. Like we can't be perfect. We just try to make positive changes and hopefully live healthier that way.
Gosh, what seems to be the starting point when you take on a client or you're helping somebody? I mean, what area do you tackle first?
It's really funny. And it's interesting because, again, all these things I'm doing, I'm like, really? Like, I never had any ideas of doing this kind of stuff when I was younger. But it's funny how God works that way. Everybody comes to me differently. It's funny but for some reason, once they come to me as a client, we usually find a way to work in the other two things. So people will come to me about food. Mainly, I think when we talk about real food, people are like, what does that even mean? It's like eating food that's not super processed. It's not that hard. We make everything out to be like it's so hard, and it's really not that hard. I mean, there are things in life that are extremely hard. Eating real food is really not that hard. Just having, so trying to do that and incorporate, like, why do you need that? What is it doing for your body? Let's break that down and just into really simple terms of why you need to be giving your body proper nutrients and what does that really mean, and so it's interesting to kind of what people come to me for, and then if I'm teaching, I teach locally at a couple different places, and so that can sometimes bring in clients in another way. And then, people come to me about what products they're using. That's usually always makes me giggle because there's certain things that seem easier than others. People are way willing to like buy a new product than
cooking real food.
Food.
Yeah.
But when you start to kind of explain, if somebody comes to me talking to me about their skin, like I want to have better skin. I mean, they think they're coming to me to talk to me about products. I'm like, oh no, like if you want to get better skin, then we need to talk about what you're eating. And they're like, oh man. I'm like, no, that's, it's all tied together. So everybody comes to me in different ways, but that makes it, for me, that's more exciting because it's not the same thing every day. Everybody's different. Everybody has their different challenges and things like that to be able to hopefully get them in the door one way and then work my sneaky magic to get the other pieces to fall into place.
That's great. And, I'm just going to throw this out there. This is kind of my personal experience. It's so overwhelming to clean up everything in your environment, from everything you take in to everything you're exposed to. And so what I've kind of tried to do is just kind of deal with the things that, our family consumes the most of or that we deal with the most of. Would you agree that that's kind of a good starting point?
Absolutely. And I think, when it comes to my blog and it comes to when I went through school for nutritional therapy, a lot of people will have these niches or however you want to say it, where you just work with a certain population of people. And so everyone assumed that I would work with infertility because that was such a huge part of my life. But I don't feel specifically called to do that. Obviously, I speak up about it often and too much if you listen to the last radio show. But, I feel really called, and I think a lot of it has to do with being a military spouse because your life is so overwhelming. It's hard. It is hard to pick up your life and move and start all over every 2 to 3 years. It is a whole different ball of wax when you're dealing with your health. It has certain health issues that kind of come along with it. Not that it's just military, but that is very specific. So I think because life feels really overwhelming, I feel really called to just help people make the basic steps because there's so much information out there, because it feels so overwhelming. You don't know where to start. People feel so overwhelmed that they just don't start.
Right.
And I think, oh my goodness, no, you'd be amazed at how many amazing changes happen in your body and your health with some things that maybe don't even seem like that big of a deal to you, but they do. They're very big deal. So for us, my kids are so used to it by now, like, Mom's crazy. No, but just, there's certain things I'm like, no, you can't have red Gatorade. I'm sorry. You can't have red Gatorade. It's just little things like that, but they don't even really care about it anymore. But just the simple steps of here's what we're going to eat. Like, these are the things that are in our house. We can make lots of yummy food with this and you're all going to like it. It's going to be fine. And we're going to make really easy recipes. Like, I'm not a fan of huge, time consuming things you're cooking in the kitchen because that's just unrealistic. At least for me, it's not my happy place. I don't go there for soothing. That's like me with a book in my pajamas. I don't really want to cook something from scratch. It's going to be, exhausting.
Right.
But there are things that you can do that just make quick, easy meals that are so much better than, reaching for a blue box of macaroni or going to McDonald's, which, don't get me wrong. I mean, my kids have eaten at McDonald's. They know exactly what they want at McDonald's. But, the majority of the time, we're just trying to eat real food. And the same thing with moving, that's a whole different thing. Exercise. Everybody kind of gets that, right? I mean, you should exercise, so just finding those things that move your body well. But then when it comes to products too, that's always a big one, because people are like, what do you expect me to do? You want me to just start all over from scratch and throw everything away? It's like, no, absolutely not. But you can start to make little changes. You run out of something, buy a little safer option, get rid of the plastic in your kitchen.
Let me ask you this, if you want to share, or if you will. What would be, if you're talking about real food, talking about nutrition, what would be the top 3?
Wait a minute, Betty.
Okay.
We got to wait a minute. She just said we have to get rid of plastic. Do you know that means Gladware?
It does.
Okay. That just hit me. That's like 2 whole cupboards full. So.
I know. But you know what? You can go to Costco and you can buy this one set of glass snapware. I can't even remember what it's called. It's like 18 pieces. And they're glass dishes. The tops are plastic, but you don't, you wouldn't heat any of that stuff too. But just to have that is a huge thing.
That's a huge thing.
I'm doing it. And it's like $20-something. Like, that's just one little thing. And I always tell people, little things like that. You start to be aware. And my goal is always education. Like, just be more educated. And because you can't change what you didn't know, and you can't feel guilty about what you didn't know. I mean, whatever, you got to let that go. But when you know things, it's in your, you can't unknow it. So you start to make better choices, whether you kind of want to or not.
Well, and it is those little changes, because, getting back to changing the big things that you're constantly exposed to. I mean, you figure, how much do you use plastic in the kitchen? So that's a huge thing. Just hearing you say that makes me realize that would be a huge change, but a simple thing to do at the same time. Is that one of your top 3, maybe, where Betty was headed?
What you're going to ask me about
what
the
would
real
be your
food thing?
Top 3.
Talking about real food.
Real food.
So this is a big one because it's personal to me, and actually why I think I had a lot of health issues. I'm 42, so I'm a child of I grew up with my high school and college years in the 90s, which was the height of the fat-free. I ate the mess out of some Snackwell's devil's food cookies
100
back
calorie
in the
snacks.
day. They still make them. Every time
do.
I see them, I'm like, oh my goodness, you're responsible for my health crisis. But a big thing is eating fat, is trying to add more fat into your meals. It's a huge part, because you just don't realize what fat does in your body, what you need it for, to be able to make all of your hormones. That's such a huge piece of it. And I think why so many women my age actually have so many health issues is because we spent so many years not really eating fat, that really our endocrine systems are a mess because of it. I know so many people who are, have thyroid issues, who are seeing endocrinologists and stuff. And so I just think that's a huge one. I always try to get people to eat more fat, because it's hard to come away from that and not pay attention. Like, people are always like, oh, like, we're so used to looking at the fat grams and stuff, which is so crazy. So that's a big one. I always try to get people to eat more fat, add more fat into your diet, in all sorts of different forms, but the real forms: butter, coconut oil, avocados, things
nuts.
like that. I want you to eat like the good, healthy fats. It's so important to me. And then I have a couple of blog posts on my site, and one of them is about like how to add more fat in, and how to just make your meals more nutrient dense. And just think about foods that are just, they really have high nutritional value, which is going to be your, vegetables. I encourage meat, because I think you get some really positive nutritional values out of that. But and then the third thing is, actually, it's not food. It has to do with your digestion. Like, because when you do nutritional therapy courses and things like that, they will always tell you that the root of your health always traces back to your digestion, whether you have good digestion or not. And in our society, we just promote so much to be on the go, and we're all so stressed, and there's so much of that in your life that if you're not able to truly digest your food, if you're in that fight or flight mode, you have to be in the parasympathetic nervous system. Your body has to be parasympathetic in order to digest, that whole aspect of the autonomic nervous system, where you have the fight or flight and you have the rest and digest. So it's a whole part of your nervous system that is referred to as rest and digest. You have to be able to really eat in a good environment to allow your body to digest your food properly. So you can eat the most nutritional food that exists, but if you're not digesting it properly, it doesn't really matter. You could be eating a bunch of junk. It could be the same because your body doesn't utilize the nutrients.
Wow.
Okay, now I'm going to confess something that I have not talked about publicly to anybody.
Oh, here we go.
No, nobody.
Except for right here on Living Well.
I know, right here on the radio. But about 6 weeks ago, I started changing my diet, and we started eating low carbs, high fat, high good fat, and protein. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you the things that have changed. I think clearer. My mind is I don't feel like got 1,000 thoughts running around up there like a spider web. I think clearer. I feel better. I have more energy. But the best thing that has happened is I sleep at night. Mm-hmm. And anybody that knows me knows what a problem I've had sleeping in the last
That's amazing.
6 or 7 years. But now I go to bed. I wasn't going to bed till 2 a.m. because I could not go to sleep till 2 a.m. And then I was getting up. I would get up anywhere between 8 and 9:30. But the sleep was interrupted because I was having to get up for different things. But now, last night actually, I went to bed at 11, and I was asleep by 11:30, and then got up this morning. I had been up several times through the night, but when I go back to bed, I go right back to sleep. So that has been the biggest thing, the biggest change that I have seen.
And it's huge when you sleep
Huge when I can sleep good, when anybody can sleep good. You know, you feel so much better when you're ready to get up in the morning. That's been me. When I wake, I'm ready to get up. You know, I don't want to lay there and try and get a little bit more rest because I'm done. I'm rested. But I can attest to that.
That's awesome.
And, you know, the good fat has been eating avocados and nuts and butter. I put real butter back into our diet.
That's good too, right?
Oh, yes, it's real good. It's olive oil. What else have we been eating? Nut butters. Mm-hmm. You know, things like that. Things that I grew up eating, actually, except for the avocados. And, so that has really...
And usually what that's related to is, you know, your blood sugar levels are so much more regulated, and that has to do with a lot, you know, the cortisol levels, and that's a lot of times what will get you when you're sleeping and stuff, you know, because your blood sugar levels are imbalanced and your cortisol levels are all out of whack, and that causes a lot of problems with sleep.
So this is probably a big question to ask. So I don't know if you can just kind of answer in kind of a Reader's Digest form, but what do you mean by a good environment for digestion? Like, how can we control how we're digesting?
So I did write about this because I really like that idea of I'm also a bullet person. Like, I love just give me a list of things and I'll knock them out. You know, things that you can do to just make yourself more calm is, you know, when you're sitting down to eat, like actually sit down to eat, you know, make it more of an actual event as opposed to eating on the go or standing up in your kitchen or eating in the car. I mean, we're all guilty of that. Life is crazy. And we seem to celebrate that busyness and craziness, which is wrong. But that's a whole other radio show. But, you know, so I always tell people, like, really make it an event, you know, like we've always done in history of sitting down with your family at dinner. Like, when you eat breakfast, when you eat lunch, whatever, sit down, like, look at your food, take a moment to appreciate it, you know, say your blessings over it, like, really get your mind focused and not distracted on the fact that I'm about to eat. Because when you start to eat and when you're ready to eat, and the sights and the sounds and the smells of food, that actually starts a digestion process. It gets your saliva going. There are enzymes in your saliva that help to break down carbohydrates immediately. So you want that. So that's one thing. You know, taking a deep breath, chewing your food slowly. Actually, you know, it's all those little things like that you think back to what your mom used to say or your grandmother of actually chewing your food, because we just throw things down our throat so fast. You have to chew your food properly for digestion to work. And just little things like that actually make a huge difference. Not drinking a lot of water or liquid with your foods. Not drinking soda with your food, because soda has phosphoric acid in it, which causes digestion to halt. So there's just these little things that just really taking the time to celebrate your meal. You know, go slowly, appreciate it, pay attention, and that will allow your body to relax, to get into that parasympathetic state that you have to be in to truly digest your food.
So does it matter what you do after you're done eating, or is this just mostly important during?
Okay. You know,
good.
Because once you get up and go about, you know, you will be digesting for a while, obviously.
Sure.
But it allows your body to be in the right mode to get started.
Okay, very helpful. I've never heard that, so that's great.
Good. Yay.
I like it.
Now, you wrote a blog, and I don't know how much time we have left, but we definitely want to get to this.
Okay.
Well, because it doesn't stop with what you eat. It doesn't stop with what you're cleaning with, ladies.
Stops what's in your purse.
That's right. We are going to learn now how to
I don't
detox
know
our
about
purse.
you, but my purse is like a disaster zone. Like a lot of the times, I try to be like. I think the way I start out that post is talking about like long gone are the days of having like a cute little purse that I would hang over my hip. Like mine is huge, and there's things in it when I don't even know what's at the bottom of that purse. Every time I go on a flight, I like dump out my purse. I'm like, oh my goodness, where did that even come from? But just things that we have in our purse that are just unhealthy, and it's silly when you think about it, but there's just. We are exposed to so much junk in our environment, whether it be from our phones and all the, that's
a visual.
Oh, it's a hard one, it's just, but little things like that, and I think some of the things that I talk about in that post are just all the things that you throw in your purse that you use every day. The big one, and the one that my husband is like hilarious about. And one thing it's so great about my husband is he buys into everything. Like whatever I tell him about health and wellness, he's like, okay, like he's all in, which I know for some couples, it's hard to get your spouse to be on board. But the big one that we've really tried to be more of an effort of this past year is receipts.
Yes, that's what I got. I got so tickled at that.
Right? Because receipts, the way that receipts are printed, it comes on this paper, and it's not like a traditional like paper that comes out of your printer. It has like a powdery, the way that the ink is put onto. I'm not using fancy terminology, but you guys know what look at the receipt. Look at the receipts in your purse right now.
I have probably 15.
It has, we grab them, we stick them in there because that's just what we do. But it has a layer of stuff on it that has BPA in it. So if you're, and I'm not going to say it correctly, but it's that, I'm not even going to attempt it, but what BPA stands for. But it's the same stuff that we always hear to stay away from in plastic, right? That it's an endocrine disruptor, that it's a hormone disruptor. And so those are big words that just mean that they, when we have these endocrine disruptors, they will sometimes mimic hormones in our body or sometimes block them. And so it just really screws up our levels. We have our hormones get really imbalanced. So anyway, the BPA soaks into your fingers. Do you remember, Betty? I can't even remember. I wrote this like a while ago, but I feel like it's like within 2 or 3 seconds. Like they start this BPA starts to soak into your skin. So the other thing I will say when it comes to your skin, which goes across the board for anything, because I always like to educate as much as possible, not by fear, just knowledge is power. When your skin's your largest organ. So pay attention to the things that you expose it to, because it only takes 26 seconds for the chemicals in whatever you're using to soak into your bloodstream. That's really fast. I mean, there's not a whole lot of things I can do in 26 seconds, but those things are really powerful. And so, not all chemicals are bad. Water's a chemical, but just be cautious of that. But then look at the things that are in your purse. A lot of times I have a lot of candy in my purse because I'll be at a restaurant and I'll just throw the candy in there. If we eat candy on an empty stomach because you're just looking for something, that's really not friendly to your blood sugar. I try to keep healthy snacks in my purse because as much as I tell myself I won't snack, I'll be out and about and I'll need something. So I try to keep some stuff in there that's like that. I also lipstick. Oh, that's a big one. I'm such a calm and kind of quiet person, but I'm super bossy. It's back to bossy. When
girl.
When it comes to like just what people are using in products and things like that, because I'm like, oh my goodness, you shouldn't use that. You should, use something that's safer. So most, 60% of lip products in America contain lead, which is a neurotoxin, and so just pay attention.
The thing that surprised me the most that you listed was hand sanitizer.
Yeah. Hand sanitizer, I am a crazy person who carries my own hand soap with me. And I have for a long time. And it's funny, people ask me a lot because I do so much in that field. What was the first thing that you ever switched over? What product did you switch over first? My first one was deodorant. That was the first one I switched over. My second one was soap because I read a lot about there being so much stuff in soaps, like in public bathrooms, just a lot of junk that were very damaging to our thyroids and stuff like that. And this was during the time when I was dealing with infertility, so I was really trying to be more cautious about it. But now I'm like the total crazy mom that tells my kids not to wash their hands in public bathrooms because I'm like, don't use it. I don't even know what is in that stuff, like gross. And then I just, make them wash their hands with the soap that I carry or or something. I'm crazy, but it is what it is. There, you know, I just wear it like a badge now. But yeah, hand sanitizer, same thing. You can't. It's the same thing. You can't always just do a blanket statement about it. You just have to be a lot more cautious. Our personal care product industry is light years behind our food industry. We think of things being labeled as being safe, and if they're on a shelf in our store, we can go in and buy it and it's safe. But there's no regulation. The FDA doesn't have power to recall a product or anything like that. So it just means that we have to be very proactive about searching for products and companies that make safe things. And just as a little tidbit, if you, speaking about our phones, if you download an app on your phone, the Environmental Working Group Skin Deep database, it's a little app. You can scan all your products. It'll give you a rating. You want low ratings. It's 1 to 10. You want 1s and 2s and maybe 3s.
I know time is almost up, but how could a woman reach you? How could they contact you?
You know, I do have my website, which is called mywellbalancedlife.com. No fancy spelling, just all together. And then if you want to email me and ask me any questions about any of this crazy stuff I have talked about, you know, it's the same thing. It's mywellbalancedlife@gmail.com. But on my website, you'll see, you know, all my links of those social media accounts that I try to keep up with. But like I said, I'm 42, so it's hit or miss. But I have Facebook and Instagram and that kind of stuff too. But I'm always so happy to answer anybody's questions. And like I said, about any of those topics, you know, they all mean a lot to me, whether it's military life or nutrition or fitness or products or miscarriage or any of those things that are a part of my life. I'm happy to talk about.
Kind of a wide range of topics.
I know.
Somebody can reach out to you. I love it.
I laugh. I said I wear a lot of hats, like literally and figuratively, because it's Alaska. So I always have hats on, and then I'm always switching whatever I'm doing.
My husband loves the term one-stop shop, and I think that's what I'm going to call you today. You're kind of a one-stop shop for a variety of things. So that's fantastic. And what a pleasure it's been to have you again on Living Well.
Thank you, Amanda.
Lots of good information. I hope you guys will reach out to her, contact her, see what else she can offer you, and let's clean up our purses.
That's right.
All kinds of other things that we probably
I'm going to go home and clean
No more
out.
receipts.
I'm going to Costco to get glassware, so I got to get there before everybody else hears that tip.
That's right.
Anyway, thanks again. And that is another Living Well program. And once again, you can find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. And we hope that you will join us at KATB 89.3 in Anchorage, as well as KJLP 88.9 in Palmer. And you can listen live online at katb.org. We will look forward to seeing you or joining you again next Wednesday.